channel. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Becca and I'm now a mum. I'm trying to be a bit quieter because he's asleep and it's took me long enough to get him asleep, so yeah, sorry. Also, sorry for the state of me and the state of my room, just everything. It's so hard to keep on top of things. And sorry it's taken me so long to get this video up. I've just been trying to get the hang of things and get into the kind of routine, even though it's not a routine. Just know what to do, when to do it, that type of thing. So yeah, today's video is going to be my birth story. I'm really sorry it's going to be a long, rambly video. I did film like tiny little snippets so you could kind of see what it was like put the pictures to the story, so that there'll be like tiny little snippets in this video, but it will basically just be me explaining what happened. So yeah, so it all really started from Tuesday the 4th of August was when I was due to be induced and go in and get induced. So I was supposed to arrive there at 9 AM, which I did. I went in, said bye to mum. One of the hardest things was leaving mum and going in on my own. It was really, really scary, but had to be done because you're not allowed anybody with you because of the coronavirus. So this is where the most of filmed little bits are, because I had more time on my hands. I was thinking more of doing it, whereas when I get further into it, it just completely, I was thinking about getting this baby out. So when I went in, the midwife explained that labour ward was really busy and she couldn't start me off until it was quieter, because she couldn't get me started and then me go straight down to labour ward and there'd be nowhere for me. So I had to wait. I had nothing but monitoring. Until 6/7 o'clock, where she monitored me for half an hour, put the, I think it was called a pessary, no, might have been, I don't know, a tablet thing inside my vagina, and that was supposed to start things off. So I had the first one of them around 6:37 o'clock, stayed on the monitor for another 40 minutes, and then yeah, around 8 o'clock things started to hurt, and I felt like they were period pains, and I didn't know what a contraction was or anything like that, so I hadn't a clue what it was. I just felt like pain. So for a while I was okay with it, it was just laughable, it was fine. And then it started to hurt quite a lot. So then I was bounced on the birth ball and I couldn't sit down. This was one thing. I couldn't sit down, couldn't stay in a bed. It hurt too much. So the only thing that I could do was sitting on the birth ball and bouncing on that. That really, really, really helped. So then after a while it started picking up and it hurt more and more, and they were just getting stronger, and they were contractions. Look back at the time, but I didn't know at that point that they were contractions because I didn't have a clue what they were. So then I was up all night in pain. I could not sleep. So then around 1-2 o'clock in the morning, I was in so much pain that she put me on the monitor and saw that I was getting contractions, but they were really irregular. So I'd get two, one straight away and then have a little bit of a gap, and then the same two or one. They were really just irregular. So she examined me at that point and I was 2 centimetres. I thought, oh God, but then I didn't expect a lot to happen because obviously it had only been a couple of hours and this is my first baby, so it's not going to be quick. So then I was still in a lot of pain. I took paracetamol and codeine at the point where she came in and monitored me, and that eased it a little bit, but wasn't really effective. And then I was still in pain, and she told me to go and get a bath and see if that helped. It really didn't. Honestly, for me, it really did not help. If anything, it hurt more, like getting into the bath and getting out of the bath whilst having these pains. It was horrible. So I was still up all night. They started to get a little bit easier. They like wore off a bit around 5 o'clock in the morning. So I laid on the bed and I had a really nice view of the town that the hospital was in. So I could like look out at all like the lights in the town at night, and then it started getting to morning, watching the sun rise. It honestly was so boring and time consuming. It took forever. So then it was the 5th of August, and then I was monitored. So yeah, I was monitored, and then I was checked, and I was still only 2 centimeters dilated. And after having the contraction still after that, it really upset me to know I didn't change at all, and that pain was basically just for nothing. So then, because I was still having irregular contractions, they didn't want to put the next tablet in because it could cause it to double and like be more painful than what it needs to be. That's what they kind of explained to me. So then she had to get the consultant to check me and monitor me and tell her whether it was fine to give me this next tablet. In the end, it was all fine, and I got given this next tablet. As soon as they put that tablet in, everything stopped. No contractions, no pains, no twinges, nothing. And literally just felt like I'd done all that for nothing. That whole night of not sleeping at all, being in pain, just for no reason. So then I tried to get a little bit of sleep. I think it was like 3 o'clock by the time this happened, and then I had about 10 minutes sleep, and then people were coming in and out and just could not sleep. But during all this time, I was in there with a couple of other girls, and because none of us had partners with us, we were all just like talking to each other. It was quite nice, kind of like the atmosphere that everybody was speaking to each other in, and we got to like know each other and the stories and things. It was quite nice. So then there was still nothing. The contraction kind of picked up at the tiniest little bit around 7 or 8 o'clock, and then just died off again. So then around 11 o'clock, after everybody had been coming in and out and other people getting checked and things like that, I finally tried to go to sleep. So then I got to sleep finally, and I woke up around 11:45 to 11:55, somewhere around there, and thought, okay, well, I feel like I'm getting a lot of discharge, like something was coming out. So I like got up. As I got up, some like water started gushing. I thought I was weeing myself, so I ran to the toilet and literally was soaked, like everything was just wet. And so I didn't know what to do because I didn't know whether to click a buzzer in the toilet or get someone to do it. So I opened the toilet door and spoke to the girl that was next to me on the bed, and I said, could you just press your buzzer just to get someone in here? And then one of the midwives came in and said, yeah, well, we think that's your waters. By the amount of water it is, then yeah, I think it is. So she got me back to the bed. Luckily at this point I'd changed out of my pyjamas into my nightie, so I didn't have to get changed or anything. I was already in my nightie. So I got into the bed and she put like a puppy pad mat down. That's what I thought. That's what I call them, but they're not. They're like what they put on the beds to stop like the beds getting wet. I don't know what it is, but that's what they look like. And she monitored me and saw that the contractions were still irregular, but they were picking up a lot, and they did. As soon as my waters broke, they started really hurting. And then she spoke to labour ward and saw if there was a room for me, and then I got moved down to labour ward around between midnight and past. So I rang Mum and told her that my waters broke, and then I rang her back and I said, look, I'm going to labour ward, you're allowed to come now. I was so relieved that I could actually have my mum there with me. I'd never been so happy. So then obviously this was around the 6th of August, so the day he was born. When I was going down to labour ward, it was really embarrassing because when I was going down, the water was just still coming out. I had a pad on, but it was just still loads and loads of water coming out, and it was dripping all the way down. She said don't worry about it because it happens to a lot of people, but I just felt really embarrassed. So then Mum came around 1 AM and was in the room. I am in a room. There's Mum. And then I was put on the monitor, but the contractions were still really hurting, so being on the bed was so uncomfortable. But even though they were really hurting, they were still irregular, but they were quite close together. I was getting like 2 and then a break like before. So I was getting 2, then a break, then 2, then a break, and it was just not good. So then around 3 AM, it all just stopped again. Like, no contractions, no pains, nothing at all. And it just felt again as if all of that was for nothing. Like, you get your hopes up and things just go back down and nothing's gonna happen. And I'd already been there for, 2 days before this, and I was so drained and so upset and so tired. It's a horrible feeling. So then at 7 AM, I was examined again. So this was the first time being examined between the morning on the 5th and then after my waters broke and everything. And I was just only 3 centimetres. And again, that makes you feel horrible. No progress whatsoever. When they examined me this time, they saw that I didn't even realise you have more than 1 sack of waters. Apparently you have like 4. So there was another sack of waters that hadn't broken, so she had to break them. And then again, nothing really happened. And I was put on the drip at 7:30. And then every so often, the midwife would turn the drip up. I don't know how often, but I started feeling something, say around 9ish. I was feeling like little contractions, but they didn't hurt. It wasn't bad at all. And then at 10ish, they actually started to hurt and get a lot more stronger. And I was like 1 before the full drip had been put up to as far as it can go. Oh, and I also forgot, after I got the drip put in, I was sick everywhere. Mum, I'm going to be sick. I was laid on this bed, I couldn't move because I was attached to the drip and the monitor, and then sick all down myself. It literally like ran all down me, all onto the floor, everything. And yeah, I had to get someone to come in. So that was all over the nightie that I wanted to give birth in. So I had to wear a hospital gown. So that was fun. So then at 11:45, after going through all of the contraction things, because it really started to hurt from 10 o'clock, and Mum was going, just have more pain relief, have more pain relief. And I'd only had paracetamol and codeine at this point because I took that around 10 o'clock as well. At 11:45, I finally gave in and took the gas and air because it really did get bad. But then, looking back at my notes, my labour actually established at 11:44 or 11:45. So I basically took the gas and air as soon as my labour established, which I didn't know at the time, but yeah. So then after that, it started to become a big blur because I was in that much pain. It really started to hurt a lot. I don't know how long it took, but then I was sat on a chair the whole time because I couldn't sit on the bed, it was so uncomfortable. Walking around was okay, but sitting on this chair was so much more comfortable than doing anything else. So I was attached to the monitors, still attached to the drip, just sat on this chair, and then suddenly I get this feeling of I need a poo, and I really needed a poo. And they were telling me that it's just the pressure, it's just the pressure. I know. I was determined I needed a poo. So the midwife let me go to the toilet. I had to carry the drip with me. I was off the monitor and I was in there for ages trying to poo and I just couldn't poo. Too much information, but I just couldn't. So then she examined me again after having all of this pain. I was still only 3 centimetres. I literally broke down to my mum. I cried and cried that I'd gone through so much pain and I still hadn't dilated anymore. I honestly, the worst feeling in the world. And she said the reason that I was feeling like I needed a poo and it was so uncomfortable was probably because the baby was back to back with me and he needed to turn around to obviously come out, and when the baby's back to back it causes more pressure and pain because it needs to turn. So then at that point I was still in so much pain. I thought I would have progressed a little bit, but obviously not. So then I took they injected like pethidine into me. I said yeah, that's fine, that's what I'd have. She offered me the epidural. I was still determined I did not want an epidural, so I said no to that obviously. So then I sat back in the chair. I don't know how long was in between me having the pethidine to me standing up from this chair and saying I'm having the epidural, I cannot cope with this anymore, I'm in too much pain, please get me the epidural. And I was determined not to have it. So I was like complaining that I was in so much pain, and I said to Mum I really just want to have the epidural. So she said right, well I can get an anaesthetist in here and like we'll give you the epidural. So, but then I was in 2 minds of do I just carry on or do I have it? I did not know. So she examined me and I was 8 centimetres at this point. So then I thought, right, well I've got this far. Do I really want to give in and have the epidural? So I was on the bed and I spoke to Mum and she said, do what I want. She's not going to tell me not to do it. She's not going to tell me to do it because she knows how much I didn't want it. But she knew how much pain I was in because obviously she could see me. So then I FaceTimed my dad, don't know why, but to ask him whether he thought I should have had the epidural, the fact that I had got to 8 centimetres and didn't have it. So I asked him and he said that do what I want obviously, but he thinks that I've been strong and got that far that I can carry on and just get through it. Then the midwife said by the time she gets someone here and get the epidural put in and everything, I probably would be at the point of pushing anyway. She still said if I want the epidural I can have it. So I said no, and I can't remember how long it took, but I remember I was on my side on the bed and my leg was up on one of those things, but this, like I was on my side and there was my leg, my bottom leg was here, my other leg was there, but they were open. And I remember just holding on to my mum and I don't even know what, I was so tired. I remember like I was falling asleep, getting a contraction, and I would breathe the gas in air and then just try and like fall back asleep in between them. I was that tired, and then suddenly Mum woke me up and I woke up or something like that, and she was giving me Lucozade, like just literally like feeding me Lucozade like you would feed a baby a bottle. And I said like I need to push, and then I think I remember the midwife saying, well you're between 8 and 10 centimetres, just maybe wait a bit because otherwise you'll tire yourself out. And I just couldn't. I just said I need to push, I have to do it. I don't know what came over me, but I just started doing it. So then at this point I was there trying to push. I was in that position of on my side with my legs like open, and I was pushing, and then she went, the gas and air is gonna make it go slower. So then I just gave the gas and air to my mum and did it without, and just pushed and pushed, and I listened to what she said and when to push, when to just do little pushes and things. And then 24 minutes of pushing, he arrived, and apparently that's really quick for like your first baby. But then he was passed up to me under my hospital gown thingy, and yeah, I was just, the feeling that you get when you get given your baby for the first time, it's just an amazing feeling. They put a little blue hat on him that the hospital gave him, and I was holding him and I just couldn't believe it. I literally broke down, I was crying, everything. I can't remember whether I passed him to mum then, or I delivered the placenta. No, I'm sure I passed him to mum and like started pushing to give birth to the placenta, and I gave birth to the placenta and seemed okay. Then I was holding him again, and suddenly I feel like a gush of water, and I could see on the midwife's face that something wasn't right. But she said, oh, it's just a little tear, you're fine, don't worry. And I said, no, you're sure? Because like I could feel it, and it felt, this is probably TMI, but you know when you're on your period and you can feel like the blood like come, and like, I don't know, like a flush of blood come. It felt like that, but like loads more. And I just kept feeling it, and I said, what's happening, what's wrong? Suddenly, loads of people start entering the room. I didn't hear any alarm go off or anything, but loads of people started entering the room, and then I was told to pass the baby to mum. So I passed Blake to mum, and then I remember there was a consultant that came, and she said, I've just run over from the women's centre to here, or something along those lines. And then my mum knew, like heard that, and my mum knew that something bad was happening. So then I don't really remember, I remember parts. So I remember I had the gas and air because the consultant had her hand inside me, and then her other hand like pushing down on my belly to try and make it contract, because it wasn't contracting. When you give birth to the placenta, it's supposed to contract right down, but for me it didn't contract down, so it just kept bleeding out, not like going down. So I was bleeding out, and she was like doing all this stuff. I was sucking on this gas and air, and you know when you've heard gas and air and it's at the point where you can't get any more out because you breathe in loads. And the next minute they say, right, look, we're going to theatre. So I can't remember what happened. People were grabbing like the drip and everything. I had to leave the gas and air. I was going down to theatre, left my mum and Blake in the room, and I just remember like asking, because there was so many people around me and I was laid on this bed, I was asking whoever I could, am I going to be okay, am I going to be okay? Literally no one was replying to me or saying like, you're fine. And I just remember crying my eyes out. I find it so hard to talk about because it like still really affects me. Like I had a dream about it the other night, and I just woke up, cried, couldn't get back to sleep. It's horrible thinking back to it. So then when I got to the theatre, I was moved from my bed to the other bed, the theatre place, and then I was sat up, and I remember being leaned over the bed. They were attaching stuff to this cannula in this hand. I put in another cannula in this hand. There was a needle going in my side. There was a needle going in my back. That was a spinal block to like numb me. So I didn't have an epidural, I had a spinal block, which basically I think it does the same thing as the epidural. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just numbs me from like here downwards. And then I was having other things like shoved in each side and everything. Loads of people were around. I literally couldn't tell you how many people were in that theatre. I started not feeling anything, and they were all doing things like down there, and I just remember laying on the bed crying because I was awake during the whole time while I was in theatre, and I just remember laying there crying. Just, I don't know, it was horrible. And then a woman came in the door and said, "Can your mum do the first feed?" Like, obviously to Blake, and I said yes. Luckily I was planning to bottle feed, so it was all fine. But I would have loved to do the first feed. And then she told me what time he was born. She told me how much he weighed, and then told me what time he was born. And I looked at the clock and was like, oh my god, it's been nearly 2 hours. I remember saying that. And then I was all done, and they said they had to put stitches in because I had a little tear as well. So they did the stitches and everything, and took me back to the room where Mum and Blake was. And when I got back to the room, I still had the things like attached to me and everything. The drips attached to me. One was giving me fluids. The other one I can't remember what was giving me. And I had a blood pressure thing on my arm, and it just literally every couple of minutes it would tighten, test my blood pressure and go back down. And then I finally got to hold him properly, and yeah. So then I was just spending time with him, and Mum gave me, because he wanted food again, I got to give him his next feed. Got to wind him, and I tried to dress him. The one thing I really wanted to do was like be the first person to dress him and stuff, and like put his first little outfit on him. And obviously I couldn't move, so we tried to do it like on me on the bed, and Mum obviously was helping me, but because of the things I had in my hands I couldn't do it properly. So in the end I just gave up and like said to Mum she could just do it. And like, I know I sound really stupid getting upset over this, but it was like the stuff I've always imagined doing after giving birth and things just taken away from me. So I always imagined like dressing him for the first time and feeding him, being the first person to feed him and things, and just cuddling him, and I just couldn't because I was taken away. And then obviously when I got back I could do it, but so then I checked my phone and I had so many messages, but so yeah, I checked my messages and I had loads of messages. I just could not reply to them all, so I just left everything and didn't reply to anybody. And then after like an hour and a half left with my mum and Blake, I was just taken down to the ward. I barely had time with my mum. I was just literally kind of like half paralysed, like I couldn't move from here downwards with this new baby. I was so scared. I did not know what just happened to me. It was horrible. And then I had to leave Mum, go to the ward, and just be left like with this baby in this cot next to me, and I couldn't get him out. I couldn't stand up, I couldn't move, I couldn't reach to get him out or anything. People had to like pass him to me. Not people, midwives that were helping. So then when I was in the ward, I was told that I lost 1 litre 300 of blood. Yeah, 1 litre 300 of blood. And they were waiting to see whether I would need a blood transfusion, an iron transfusion, or I would just need iron tablets. And I had this catheter in me that they put in me while I was in theatre, which is honestly the most disgusting thing, like where it was just attached to me and it would just empty my bladder into this bag that was hanging next to the bed. Disgusting. And it was so uncomfortable. And then I started feeling back, and I could feel like where there was one of the needles in my side. I could feel like I felt bruised everywhere, and it was just uncomfortable, horrible. So as I was starting to get feeling back, I asked, when am I going to be able to get out of this bed? When will the catheter be taken out of me? When can I actually move around? And then they told me definitely not until morning. So all night I was awake because there were 2 babies in the room and they kept crying. He was absolutely fine, did not cry at all, and the other 2 babies were crying. So then when he needed feeding, I pressed my buzzer, the midwife would come, lift him out to me, get me the bottle that I needed and the bib, and then I would feed him and then hold him until the midwife would come back, and then she could put him back or change his nappy if he needed his nappy changing, because again, that's another thing I couldn't do because I was in this bed not being able to move. And then by the morning time I literally said, please can I get out of this bed, I can feel everything now. So after a couple of hours, after me asking loads, someone helped me out of the bed, and I was out of the bed and she took my, no, she didn't take my catheter out. Yeah, I was out of the bed and moving around, and then I got back in the bed and she took my, no, I was out of the bed moving around and I had to carry this catheter with me, and so I was going through my stuff, getting things I needed. I managed to like pick him out myself, and then I got back in the bed. So she swapped the bags of the catheter, so she had to change it from the bag that I was using or drain the bag. One of them, she either drained it or swapped it. So then I had to drink so much water to make it not look dehydrated, because I was very dehydrated. And then that's when I was allowed the catheter out. So then I finally had the catheter taken out. And honestly, I forgot to mention, during the night they had to change my pads. I wasn't wearing any underwear, so I was in this bed, and you know those, like I said, like the puppy mat things, that was underneath. They had to change that, and then they had 2 pads like just up against me, and they had to change them, and that literally, you lose all your dignity when they have to change your pads for you. Honestly, disgusting, awful. And I had the catheter taken out, and then I said, well, please can I go for a shower now? So I said, what do I do about the candies in my hand? So they said, I can't wash my hair, I can't get them wet, so I have to just wash my body downwards. So that's what I had to do. So I got a shower, washed myself. They changed my bedding, because that was what the bedding I'd been in since I was in theatre. They changed the bedding, and I could finally sort my stuff out, lift him out, feed him. I was finally able to move about and do things for myself. So they gave me some breakfast, and it was just toast. The toast at the hospital was actually quite nice. Everything else was disgusting. Honestly, vile. I'll put some photos in now because I think I took 2 photos of the food. I did not eat it at all. I took snacks, so that's all I ate was my own snacks, and I just sort of moved the plate around to make it look like I had eaten it, because it was honestly gross. Like when I was being induced. So then all that day it was just a waiting game of when I could go home. And so the first thing I had to wait for was I had to do 2 wees within 6 hours after having the catheter out. So I drank more than I've ever drank in my life, and I finally did the 2 wees and it was fine. And then after that it was waiting to get my blood test results back, to see whether I needed a blood transfusion, iron transfusion, or iron tablets, see how quickly my iron would pick back up in my body. And they were really surprised with how much blood I had lost, that I didn't need a blood or iron transfusion, I just needed iron tablets. So I was panicking all the time, saying I'm going to need a blood transfusion, oh my god, no thank you, because that's what my mum had to have after having me. But in the end I didn't have to. And then I waited all day to be able to go home. She came through, the woman that was sending me home, with literally loads of like drugs. She gave me codeine, the iron tablets, this medicine, I think it was like a laxative medicine to make sure that I'm able to poo, because earlier that day she said to me, have I been for a poo, and I said nope, and I probably never will again with the amount of pain I was in. So she said it wasn't like a necessary thing that I had to have, but she thought she'd give me it just to make it easier for me. So I had that, and then she gave me this box of needles that I had to inject myself every single day with this Clexane or something. Normally you have it after you have a C-section to stop your blood from clotting, but with the amount of stuff they use to try and stop me from bleeding, I had to have it for some reason. So every single day for 10 days afterwards I had to have injections, and honestly it left bruises where every single day where, like, well, when my mum injected me because I couldn't do it myself, but they left bruises of wherever I'd been injected. It was horrible. So I had like my stretch marks and then bruises all around it from where the injections were. It was just nasty. So then I got all of my stuff. My mum came to the hospital, met the midwife at the door, gave her my car seat, put him in the car seat. The midwife carried him down because I wasn't allowed to do any like heavy lifting or anything. And then yeah, I got to go home, met my dad outside the hospital, and he saw Blake, and yeah. So that was my birth story. I'm really sorry it took me so long to film it, and it probably take me a long time to edit it and actually get it up, but came there in the end, better late than never. So this is my little boy. He's asleep right now, otherwise I would show you him, but yeah. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and thank you everybody for 1,000 subscribers. It doesn't sound like a lot to most people, but it really feels like so much to me, like a big achievement. So thank you everybody, honestly means a lot. So yeah, like I said, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Hopefully won't be too long. Bye.